Hello, everybody. Jeremy here. Welcome back. So, I'm happy to be back for the UX Change podcast. I'm sorry it's been a while. I have thought about where to host my podcast moving forward, and I think I will stop hosting it on Buzzsprout. So that's probably why you may have seen some episodes disappear from Spotify, from Apple Podcasts, and the like, because Buzzsprout is a bit expensive compared to what YouTube provides, at least for now. I'm not saying anything about their service, it's absolutely worth it. But for now, I have to only host on YouTube. So I still have to figure out how I will have these episodes naturally sync with Spotify and the like. But today, that's not the topic. The topic is how we can leverage the new AI tools that we have at our disposal to create new tools and to automate your process and so on. So here you can see today in this screen that I developed pretty quickly. Well, I vibe coded, to be honest. That's an experiment of mine. I vibe coded a web app to centralize all of the news when it comes to AI at intersection with user experience, product, and design. And so I wanted to show you today how you can do that yourself and how you can adapt this process to any other web app that you want to create. So when you create a web app, as you know, there might be several steps. There is a research phase, there is a product design phase, and then there is the development phase. Today, I'm just going to share the development phase because I had an idea and I was like, just don't overthinking, as you always do, just do something. So I just developed something using Claude, using Vercel to host my app, and using N8N as a backend to automate. So then you have multiple things that you can have in mind when developing your app. In this case, I chose to have as a backend N8N because it's a nice area where you can decompose a bit how your app works, and you can quickly, let's say, change a little bit the modules, how they work, and really you can directly impact on the behavior of your app. You could totally replicate all that by just asking Claude to do it for you and to have a database as a backend. I chose not to because if you ask Claude, if you prompt it to do something for you, it will do it, but then all the code, you have no way to edit it in a simple way. You need to prompt back and forth. So I wanted to have control over what's happening in the background. So that's why everything that is here is backend. The N8N is the backend, and here this is just to display what we have as the backend. So the backend is actually, well, the behavior here in these two files, in these two N8N files that I will describe in a minute. And then we have a Google Sheets that acts as a database, basically. So nothing else than that, to be honest. So that's the okay, one sec. I will use this whiteboard to share what I'm saying. So the stack here is basically, we have as the backend, as the front end. As the backend, we have N8N for the automation part, and we have Google Sheets as a database. I'm not saying this is something you should do in production mode or whatever. It might be terrible from an engineer perspective, and I'm not saying I'm an engineer, but you know, it gets things going, and it helps you to have an idea directly acted upon without thinking about this too much. So that's why I did that. So that's the backend. You could totally have, instead of that, let's say instead of Google Sheets, you could have a Supabase as an example. You can have Airtable. You can have What's the other names? I'm not familiar with all the names for database. I know that there is Postgres, if I'm not mistaken, Postgres. Anyway, you have a lot of options, but I just wanted to go simple, to be honest. So maybe Google Sheets is not the right name maybe database is not the right name, but you get the point. Okay. Then for the automation, you could totally have that on a Python script on a server. It could also work. I wanted to be able to visually, and I did that in the past, by the way. I wanted to be able to visually edit my stuff without having to change the whole code. In my opinion, code is great, but ultimately it's really not user-friendly. If you're a professional coder, it's fine, but let's face it, 80% of people are not. And even if you know what you're doing, like, it's really a pain to have to change a line of code and then take into account everything else. This, for me, is really much more intuitive. So, and in terms of the front end, what I have is basically a web app. I don't know how to say. It's not a web app. It's I'm even not familiar with the names. A bunch of files that sit on our server and that receive the actual output of my automation. So how does that work? I basically have the automation, and then from there, I add stuff to Google Sheets, and then we have the server, the web page rendering what is in the Google Sheets. It's as simple as that, to be honest. So that's the process. Okay, here it is, more or less. This is terrible. I'm doing a terrible job. I'm so sorry, but I just want to communicate my ideas, and I hope it helps at least someone. So the goal of this video is to share with everyone how someone like me who doesn't know about the technicalities of stuff could at least get something working for him or herself. That's it. That's the goal. That's the goal. And ultimately, as user experience researchers or designers, sometimes we want to go a bit beyond. We want to have stuff working for us, materialize stuff in a way that works. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm not saying this is production ready, but that works. It's not just a prototype with fake data. It actually works. So how does that work? Well, there are two workflows. The first one is in here, and then the other one is in here. So basically, what happens is I want to be able every day to centralize, to receive a digest of what's happening in the world of AI and user experience, and product design and product management and so on, without having to check like 1,000 sources. I want everything to be curated, and I want to receive everything in one place. So what I did is think about one thing. So the guys are amazing. It's called The Rundown. The Rundown AI, they basically send a newsletter every day, or maybe every week, I don't remember, a day, on AI. And so that's basically what got me inspired. But I thought it was a bit too much AI oriented. No problem. This is the goal of their service, their product. It's perfect. I love it. But I wanted something a bit more, let's say, tweaked for user experience. So what I did is I thought, okay, I need stuff to be living somewhere. So I thought, okay, don't get into the nitty-gritty of databases and so on. It's not needed for now. So everything is living in a Google spreadsheet. And then I was like, based on this information that sits somewhere. So it's basically the goal of, I would say, developing any web app, at least the 80-20 of a web app. You need to think about data input, then you have processing, and then you have output. It's as simple as that, ultimately. I mean, as a concept. I'm not saying this is perfect, but as a concept. Okay, once you have that, you're like, okay, what should I use as data input? What should I do as processing? And how should I output that? Well, outputting that is simple. It's basically my website. It could be another way, of course. It could be an email. It could be other things. The input is my Google spreadsheet here. And the processing are my, let's say, my n8n workflows. So hopefully you get an idea of more or less how it works. I'm not saying this is perfect. Again, you may have understood by what I'm saying that I'm not a pro, but I try to get my way around things. So once I identified that I wanted to have information as an input in a Google spreadsheet and then the output in a website, well, I thought, okay, that will be the input. And this is in 2 steps. So I'm sorry, this may not be easy as a first example because this is in 2 steps. But I thought, okay, you have your input. So see that as, let's say, going from here to here. This is the last step. This is the first step. This is the last step. This is input. This is output. So just think about what is the input. The input is a Google Sheet. Okay. The output will be an email, as I said, or it could be it could be the website, publishing on the website. So here, instead of this node, we could have HTTP node, which means we publish something, we make a request, which could be publishing something. I will explain why, and it's not so easy to understand, to be honest, why I'm not doing that today. Okay. So once I have the information, I need to use some nodes to parse them. So let's not consider this one first, because this one is about deleting information. You will not understand first why I'm doing that. But what I do is basically, okay, I want to read information about AI, product design, product management every day from my sources. So what I can do is register my sources somewhere. Here I'm not, how can I say, I'm not stealing any information. This is RSS feeds. So if you click on any of those feeds, which is actual feeds, the information is there. I'm not stealing anything, I'm not scraping anything. This is things that the websites put at our disposal if we want to, let's say aggregate news. By the way, you have such aggregators available. So if you type RSS aggregator, you have a lot of options to do that. So you have RSS.app, you have Feedly, you have tiny RSS, and so on and so forth. So basically, when you input an RSS feed, you will be able to have this agglomerated in an app. So for instance, here if I add, so it's basically if you add all of your addresses, then you have a feed. It's like, imagine the Twitter or X feed, but it's only the addresses that you add. And it's not Twitter, it's just these addresses. And then they publish content every day, and then you are able to check this. And as you can see, not everything is working directly. But it should more or less look like this. Not like this, sorry. More or less look like this. And you can check on these files. Okay, anyways. That being said, once you have that, you're like, okay, now I want to loop each and every URL, and I want to be able to extract the content from this feed, basically. In the middle, you do a bunch of processing. So for instance, you might want to normalize this. So for instance, you want to make sure that there are actually articles in the middle. You want to make sure that this is from the last 24 hours. So that's for me. So there is a bunch of code in the middle. I can send that to you if you're interested. Just comment below. And then once you did that, you write the content of the articles to a queue. The queue is here. The queue is here. So you basically have the title of the article, you have the description, the URL, and the source. And not everything will be working correctly, you will see. So that's why we need to synthesize, we need to sanitize, and we need to pre-process. So for instance, this one, where OpenAI's technologies could show up in Iran. Okay, not so happy post, but you get the idea. Agentic AI in the enterprise, guidance by persona. This is part 2 of a 2-part series from the AWS Generative AI Innovation Center. Okay, so you get the idea. It's like a quick blurb, and then you have the URL. So that's exactly what I want, and I want to integrate that in my app. So you will tell me, and you would be right to say so, it's written in the queue. If we stop here, we do have an RSS aggregator. It's exactly the same as this, or as this, or as this. It's exactly the same. There is no difference. So if we stopped here, there would be no interest in doing just that. What I wanted is to have an overview of, first, I wanted the news to be at the intersect of AI, UX, product, and design. So I wanted for each news to be actually filtered. And I think in this case, only AI can help us do that. Maybe using some regular expression or filtering by keywords, but I do think that AI was needed for that. So it's like of RSS 2.0. Okay, so that's why there is a second part to this workflow, which is once we have articles in the queue, we want to read them. We want to filter new URLs. So if an article is written, is seen for the second time, then we might want to dismiss it. Then we will filter. We will filter by this prompt. So basically, you are an editorial filter for a newsletter about AI intersecting UX research, product management, and product design. Score this article relevance from 0 to 10. And then they should return a JSON. The JSON is the format I will use for my issue of the newsletter. So as you can see, the date, we have a synthesized opener talking about what's happening today in this world. We have an intro, and we have all the stories, and then for each story we have the URL and the blurb. So that's something, I'm not scraping anything. This is something that websites put at our disposal when they do have an RSS feed. They put that at our disposal. So once that is done, we filter and we parse the relevance score, and we pick the top 5 because we filter by the top 5. And so that's the difference with an RSS feed. Once you add some URLs, it can grow exponentially because you have too much stuff. And then also you don't have a way to process the information. And then you have Claude writing the newsletter. So basically, you have Claude returning the JSON, but really formatted as a newsletter. So that's the thing. It's different from a news aggregator or an RSS aggregator in the way that it's like if you had an assistant working for you and crafting this newsletter. Okay, and once this is done, we log the URLs that we saw. So they are here to make sure that we don't use them again in the future because they would have been already used. And then we append the rows in as the newsletter issues, and every day I will have a new row here every day. So here you can see 15th of March, 16th of March. Every day I will have a new row. Okay, and then once this is done, that's the idea. That's where the front end starts. So you can also build an email HTML, and the email HTML, once it's sent, it will actually be received as an email. Pretty much in the same format as the rundown. Okay, and then you clear the queue to make sure that the next day the queue will be cleared here. And that's why I didn't want to talk about this before, but I think there is an issue in my newsletter here. There was an issue in my other workflow here because it's not clearing, and I needed to myself add at the beginning of this workflow a way for me to clear everything when we start. So here I start every day by clearing the queue to make sure that everything is cleared, so that because then the next step takes from this queue and writes the newsletter. We don't want something to be written twice, basically. Well, we have double security because we still have the scene URLs, so it shouldn't happen, but still, it's good to have the queue being cleared. Like, that's the role of a queue. A queue, once it's used, it should be cleared, basically. So that's basically that. And then what I did is basically prompt Claude to create a front end for that. And this is an app that will actually go inside of these Google Sheets to look for the issues and display them. It's as simple as that. So you ask Claude, you provide Claude with this kind of information. What are the workflows? What is the input, the output? What do you want? You provide it with the structure of the Google spreadsheet. And once that's done, you have the front end. The last thing you need to do is ask Claude. So if you use Claude Cowork or Code, it will provide you with the actual files for the website, but you need to put these files on a server for the website to be accessible anywhere. So here we have the interface, send Vercel.app, because it's accessible on Vercel. Vercel is a way for you to host the website basically at no cost. If you have no domain, you will use the domain that they provide. So basically, it's that you upload that to Vercel. You can ask ChatGPT or whatever else, how do you need to deploy that to Vercel, and it will actually help you. It will give you the command prompt. And so if you want that to happen, you just have to open a terminal and prompt it with the Vercel commands so that it actually uploads to Vercel. So you need to create an account on Vercel. You will have some APIs to use. You use the APIs, you put them on the terminal, you use the commands, and then your site will be here and it will be live and you will be able to access it. And if the site has been coded by Claude so that it picks up any information in the backend, it will actually refresh. Tomorrow at any time, it will refresh. Let me show you one example. If I delete this row, here you can see that we have 16th of March, which is yesterday, and well, this is an error. It shouldn't happen. This is the day before. It should be the day before. If I refresh this, we will not have the 16th of we shouldn't have this. Maybe it's because it hasn't refreshed. Let me check. One sec. What you should do in these cases is verify that you have your last deployment made. So you should redeploy if it's not done. So you redeploy. So deploying means that you upload the website, let's say, to the actual server, which is a Vercel in this case. So it takes a bit of time, but once it's done, you will have your latest version. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that for my audience, just to see that they could actually develop anything, vibe code anything with Claude, using some kind of automation, using some kind of database, and then hosting that somewhere so that it could be live for anyone to see. So as you can see, this is status ready. If I click on it, I don't know why it's not happening. I'm sorry, this is the demo effect probably. Let me check. One sec. Okay, let me check again. Well, I'm sorry for that. Maybe it's because it has some cookies or whatever. Sometimes it happens, it doesn't. So if I use incognito, I have no idea why it's not um, updating that. Anyways, basically, if I change that, normally it should basically update. I have no idea why. Let me just check one last time just in case. I see that sometimes by refreshing it doesn't upload, and it may be update. It may be also a reason that it takes a bit of time to update. So if I say intro here and I say trying to debug live, I hate that, I'm sorry. Test, so the intro is called test. Okay, so let me go to my deployments, current, ready, redeploy. Okay. It might be because, to be honest, it might be because the anyway, let me actually go through it again and have everything being displayed. Probably it's that. So if I delete everything and then this shouldn't happen. New incognito window. Yeah, as you can see. Okay, as you can see, it actually refreshed. So I'm sorry if this didn't happen before. It's a bit weird. Maybe it takes a bit of time. But now I'm going to walk you through the whole execution. So what I do is it starts by deleting all the rows in Google Sheets. It normalizes articles and then it writes them to the queue. And it's going to do that for all of my addresses. So that's the power of that. You can have any URL here and you can build your totally custom feed enhanced by AI. So that's the story of things. It's that it's an RSS feed that is actually complemented by AI. So once we arrive here at 52 out of 52, that will be finished basically. And as you can see, it's writing in real time. It is actually writing in real time. And the first time I did that for myself, I found that crazy, to be honest. It doesn't always work. I need to work on stuff, but you can imagine that when it works, it's amazing. Anyways, so I'm gonna pause until it reaches 52. Okay, so we arrived towards the end of the 52 items that I had initially. So that means that what I did is going through all of these URLs, looking for the RSS links. And then what it did is basically looking for the stories that each of those links provided. That being done, so we do have a queue of articles. And you remember that the interface was empty. So once that's done, we launched a second workflow, which is based on the queue of articles we have, we want to write a newsletter, basically. And so we go through each URL, we go through a Claude filter. This filter is just a relevance filter for AI and product design or UX research articles at the intersection. And based on that, we will pick the top 5 and we write the newsletter. It's as simple as that. So it might take a bit of time because it's going through all of these rows, the 56, if I'm not mistaken, we should have 56 rows of articles that could be AI, UX, product. And what it does is attributing some filtering. So we are nearing the end of these filters. Once this will be over, it will parse the relevance score. So each article has a relevance score. It will pick the top 5. It will write the newsletter and it will publish it. And here you will see it appear here once it's done. And that's the beauty of it. So again, I'm a user experience researcher usually. I love automation, I love AI, and I love design. And so that was the purpose of this episode, is to show you everything we can do when automating a little bit our job. That could be something that you want to use every day to do some, let's say, literature review of what's happening in the world of AI and user experience. So now that this is published, as you can see, if we refresh and if it works correctly, but again, it might take a bit of time because the website doesn't refresh every day. It will definitely take some time. I'm sorry for that, but you get the idea. In the meantime, I can tell you that you might want to also add some features to your app. For instance, here I provide the feature to save some articles locally. So that means if you never refresh your browser in terms of cookies or delete the history, you will have these articles saved in the browser directly. You can also search. You can also enable night mode or maybe a more beautiful mode, whatever. That was just me playing with stuff. And so, again, this is not available. Let me try. I think it just takes time and I'm just not patient. I think it's probably that. Or probably... As you saw, when I deleted some of it here, it directly deleted. So I guess it has to do with how many times the app pings the spreadsheet just to check if everything is ready. For the purpose of this episode, what I can do is basically redeploy. I think it's not a good practice, but it might refresh it a little bit what's happening. Usually you might want to redeploy when you do have a change in your app. Here I have no change. So may not be a good practice. I don't know. Any engineer or developer here, let me know. Might be terrible. I'm sorry in advance. Anyways, that will redeploy and you will see that... Oh, well, here it is. So you saw the update of these stories, and then when you click on it, you can land on the actual story. And you can read the blurb here. Again, this is not provided by AI, this is provided by the article. You can save, and if you save, you land here. As you see, there is an issue here, it's not perfect. You can filter by topic. And you can also search by story. And my goal is to have this for every day that passes by, and I can have a history of all these articles, even saved eventually. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you learned at least one thing as always. I know it was a bit different from the usual, and I think I will do more of those in the near future. Until then, take care. Cheers.